National Football League has over time implanted itself in American pop culture as a profitable powerhouse and the new America's pastime as it is seen today.
This National Football League is the most competitive and highest paying league of American football played in the entire world. This league, consisting of 32 teams in two conferences. 32! American Football Conference and the National Football Conference. The winners of both play in a match called the Super Bowl. The NFL as a franchise had slow beginnings, with the first teams, the Decatur Staleys, which are now the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Cardinals, which are now the Arizona Cardinals. Crazy. The first big star of the NFL emerged with Jim Thorpe in the early 20th century, who was paid a whopping $250 per year. A Native American and two-time Olympic gold medalist sprinter, Jim Thorpe was known as one of the greatest athletes of his time. He also had some of the most luscious locks I've ever seen. A meeting took place between the Canton Bulldogs, the Akron Pros, the Cleveland Indians, and the Dayton Triangles in order to make the league more organized. As a result of this meeting, on August 20th, 1920, the American Professional Conference was formed. A second meeting was held on September 17th, and Jim Thorpe was elected president, and the name changed to the American Professional Football Association. After the first season of the APFA, most teams disbanded and sold off players and assets. A player named Bob Nash was sold to Buffalo for $300. This was the first APFA deal. On April 30th, 1921, Joe Cass became the new president of the APFA, setting new rules like giving teams territorial rights and timing the players' movements. The American Professional Football Association changed its name on June 24th, 1922. The new name was the National Football League. The NFL had 18 teams early on. Offshoots of the NFL popped up, such as the American Football League, created by C.C. Pyle after the NFL refused to give him a team. By 1926, the NFL had grew to 22 teams. At this point in the NFL's short history, its popularity was inclining at a fast rate. On April 23rd, 1927, the NFL shrunk the league size to 22 to 12 and moved to a smaller market NFL franchises to the east, where there is a better financial market. The NFL had many teams constantly come and go, including the Providence Steamrollers and Dayton Triangles. At one point, Detroit had 4 teams in 8 seasons, which were the Detroit Heralds, Detroit Tigers, Detroit Panthers, and the Detroit Wolverines.
On December 18th, 1932, the Chicago Bears and Portsmouth Spartans played the first playoff game in the NFL's history. The game was held at Chicago Stadium, with the Bears winning the game 9-0. This paved the way for the championship game. George Hollis separated the NFL into 2 divisions, where the champions of each division met in a championship game. The first nationally broadcasted game was in 1934 on Thanksgiving Day between the Chicago Bears and Detroit Lions.
Fun fact, the Detroit Lions were the Portsmouth Spartans before they relocated to Detroit.
A large part of the modern day NFL is the NFL Draft. The NFL Draft is an annual event where teams pick college football players to help rebuild their franchise and to provide depth for their roster. This was first proposed by Burt Bell in 1936, and it would be implemented into the NFL that same year. Another annual event that was initiated during the 1930s was the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl was a game between the best players selected from each conference. The first Pro Bowl was between the New York Giants and the Pro All-Stars. It was held on January 15th, 1939 in Los Angeles. On June 8th, 1966, the NFL and its rival league, the AFL, agreed to merge the 2 leagues together. The 2 leagues officially merged into one league with 2 conferences, the NFL in 1970. The merge between the NFL and AFL brought the Super Bowl, which is the most watched sporting event in North America. The Super Bowl is so popular that many consider it as a holiday, Super Bowl Sunday. After the Super Bowl was implemented, no major shakeups were made in the league until the 1990s. The 1990s brought expansion teams to the league and rule changes, which brought a burst of excitement into the league. Expansion teams included the Cleveland Browns after their original franchise was relocated to Baltimore, Carolina Panthers, Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's it.
Here we're talking about equipment. Now, helmets were not a mandatory piece of equipment in college until 1939. So before that, looking across the field, you'd see many people without helmets, or just weird things that would barely cover your nose. But they were either made out of leather straps or moleskin fused together to protect players who had a concern for their safety, even though it wasn't mandatory. The invention of shoulder pads in football is credited to L.P. Smock, a Princeton student who is said to have designed the pads in 1877, 8 years after his school faced Rutgers in the first ever college football game. The first pads are said to have been made out of leather and wool and were sewn into the competitors' jerseys as opposed to being worn as a separate piece of equipment as it is done today.
The discovery and development to prevent concussions was a strenuous task put into action by Dr. Bennett Umalu, who recognized signs of a concussion or chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
It's chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Oh, thank you. In the Hall of Fame center, Mike Webster, in 2002. The NFL rejected Umalu's claims time and time again, thinking that the knowledge of this disease would ruin the NFL and its profitability, with mothers not wanting their children to play football and ruining the industry. Concussions in the NFL have been a problem for many years, and in the past decade, many former NFL players and their families have spoken out about the NFL's controversial handling of player concussions. Many of these former players suffer from chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a disease that is caused by concussions. The chance of a concussion increases by not wearing a helmet. CTE affects the brains of 3.8 million people each year.
Helmets, they're pretty good.
CTE has led to memory loss, depression, dementia, and many other serious brain malfunctions.
Alright, we're going to talk about television and licensing. Alright, in 1951, the NBC was awarded a 2-year contract for radio and television rights to the NFL championship game for $615,000 annually, $300,000 which was to go directly into the NFL Player Benefit Plan, April 5th. Thanks. NFL Properties Incorporated was founded to serve as the licensing arm of the NFL, licensing things like shirts all the way to shower curtains. The Packers defeated the Chiefs 35-10 before 61,000 fans at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in the first game between the AFL and NFL teams. The game was televised by both the CBS and NBC. Monday Night Football was signed for 1970. ABC acquired the rights to televise 13 NFL regular season Monday night games in 1970, 1971, and 1972.
Viewership ratings for the NFL began to soar, as seen when Dallas defeated Miami 24-3 in Super Bowl VI. The CBS telecast was viewed in an estimated 27 million viewerships, the top-rated one-day telecast ever in that time period. Super Bowl XVII was the second highest rated live television program of all time, giving the NFL a sweep of the top 10 live programs in television history. The game was viewed in more than 40 million homes, the largest ever for a live telecast.
According to a Harris survey, sports fans chose professional football at a 41% as their favorite sport, overtaking baseball, which was at 38% for the first time in the early 2000s. Super Bowl Sunday is practically a money vacuum for the NFL, raking in $5 million for a single 30-second ad. Although this may seem ridiculous, many families across the country tune into this event just to watch the commercials. With its diverse entertainment that can be entertaining to any person, whether it be the actual game, the halftime show, or commercials, makes it the most watched television event in the United States with an average viewing of 111.9 million viewers every year. NFL contains some of the most expensive teams in the world, such as the Dallas Cowboys at $4 billion, the Patriots at $3.2 billion, the Redskins at $2.85 billion. Dallas is tied with the New York Yankees as the second most expensive team in the world behind Real Madrid. The NFL's insane profitability makes it possible to pay crazy salaries such as that of Ben Roethlisberger's at $48.9 million and Ndamukong Suh at $38.6 million, Carson Palmer at $29 million.
In 1997, CBS launched a beta version of the first public fantasy football website. Fantasy football brought a newfound excitement to the NFL and attracted more than just the casual football fan. In 2014, the estimated number of fantasy football players is around 25 million. And that's it. Have a good day, folks.
You broke it.
How the hell did I break it?
Marco.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Marco.
Thank you.
You should just not even make cookies. Just give us a cookie
dough?
No.
Ready beef steak?
Yeah.
So before that time, they were looking across the field in game day, and you'd likely to see the sampling of bare heads. What? Okay, did that sound weird or what?
I got bare head.
You're likely to see a sampling of bare heads and a wide variety of helmets.
Ow.
Alright, just take it off your head. Equipment now.
Concussions.
No.
Level of competitiveness went on hiatus. Hiatus? What is the
Hiatus.
hiatus? What is that?
Like a break. Like One
All right,
Direction
go.
is on one of them right now.
Hiatus. They just suck.
One Direction?
Yeah.
Well, they just needed a break.
That's-
I like hearing the Jets. It makes me sleep good at night.